all you people out there in podcast listening land and all you people in podcast watching land who are watching us with horrible sunlight streaming in on us. But, it's fine. It's what we do. You are listening to another episode of Dan and Frankie Go to Hollywood. My name is Dan.
And I'm Frankie.
And what are we talking about today, Frankie? This is something that's a little bit close to your heart, being that you've seen it like what is it, 19 times in the last week or something, give or take.
It's definitely probably the movie I've seen most in a short period of time.
I know it's
But
crazy.
yeah, Sea of Love, which is
Mm,
one of my favorite Al Pacino movies that I have come across because I know it was a big hit when it came out, but it's not one that gets talked about. So I'd never really heard of it until I
hmm
started watching his movies. And
hmm
it's just so fun that I suggested it to you, and then you really liked it. So here
Well,
we are.
suggested it. My God, you talked about it endlessly for like a week, and to the point where I was just like, I don't know what I'm more hyped about seeing, this movie or the new Superman film. And so, yeah, no, this is a movie that obviously I knew about it, working in video stores for years and everything. I've seen the cover, but yeah, didn't really sort of think too much about it, and I don't know why, because I do like me some Pacino, some Bacino, um, and yeah, but I don't know, I'm actually because I remember when we were talking about it, I wasn't 100% sure if I had actually seen it. I don't think I have in hindsight. Now that I've watched it a couple of times, I don't think I had ever seen it. So yeah, you got me extremely excited, and then I read what it was about. So according to Letterboxd, Sea of Love, 1989, directed by Harold Becker. Seen it all. New York detective Frank Keller is unsettled. He has done 20 years on the force and could retire, but no, and he hasn't come to terms with his wife leaving him for a colleague, joining up with an officer from another part of town to investigate a series of murders linked to by the Lonely Hearts columns. He finds he is getting seriously and possibly dangerously involved with Helen, one of the main suspects. Helen, of course, played by Ellen Barkin. This movie's also got John Goodman, Michael Rooker, Richard Jenkins, and that's and Samuel L. Jackson as Black Guy, which I thought was amazing because
Yeah.
technically doesn't he play that character in every film that he's in? And I'm pretty sure that's not being
And
racist. I
it's weird
mean,
because like every other character has a name, and I assume some of them are like other guys that
mm.
were in that
Oh
scene.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
like there's even a guy who's clipboard guy number two.
Yeah, we've got supermarket manager, supermarket cashier. There's oh man, imagine being the having the distinction, the prestige, if you will, of being able to boast. I was cable supervisor in Sea of Love. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, look, you absolutely hyped this movie up so much, and I kind of thought, look, I'll give it a shot. I can't guarantee I'm going to love it as much as you do. And I did love it as much as you do because how can you not? Um, this movie, look, I'm actually going to let you take the reins here. You get started on this one because
Oh.
this is obviously, more your thing. So yeah.
Well, this is kind of gets classed in with those erotic thrillers from the 80s and 90s, but it's less about the murder mystery. It's more about the characters and
Mm,
especially Frank, Al Pacino's character, because yeah, it's more like a drama, but it's just following detectives looking for this killer. But
mm,
yeah, so if you just want a thriller movie, this is not really going to like it has its moments and is she the killer or not and all of that, but also that leads to some quite funny moments. But
oh yeah.
anyway, so I love the opening of this well, the opening is the first person or a person being killed, but the opening with Frank is this fun like Yankees brunch thing that all these guys are turning up to, which is which is where Samuel L.
Including Black Guy.
Jackson,
Yeah.
yeah. Also, it's not the only one, but I
Mm.
guess because he speaks, he gets the distinction of.
So what are we going to name his character? I don't know. Well, he's a guy. He's black. I've got it. Yeah.
And yeah, and so all these guys turn up for this Yankees brunch, and it turns out that they all have warrants for their arrest. And so the
Mm.
cops just got them all together and then told them that's why they were there, which is
Hmm.
based on a real thing that happened.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That always fascinates me. I'm really glad that you told me about that because I probably wouldn't have
mhm.
known. But yeah, that just makes that scene so much more interesting, doesn't it?
Also, the guy that is one of the cops, and in this scene, he's the one that does the speech about Frank getting his 20 years, is
Mm.
actually, or was at least, or is at the time, something. He was a cop,
Oh,
but he
okay.
also kind of liked acting as well and got into
Was
it. And I
that
think
Tom
he's
and
the
Tom
guy.
Curley who played Toastmaster? Maybe. I don't know. He was in a handful of
Well, no,
movies like
he
Ghost.
he was one of the cops. Whenever Frank was
Yeah.
hanging out with his cop buddies, he was one of them. But
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
guy that apparently is the driver in Scent of a Woman.
Oh, okay, so that wasn't him then. I just saw someone was credited as
I
Toastmaster, and I
think.
thought, oh no, that Toastmaster was the guy, the other one who was like when Pacino's doing
Oh yeah, the
karate
cop
with.
party.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's probably that guy. Yeah, no, I love. For me though, as much as I love that opening scene, I love even more the tail end of that when they're
Well,
outside getting
yeah,
in the car.
that's part of the scene because it just
Yeah.
sets up so much of what Frank is
Oh
like as a
man,
character.
I love it. So yeah, this guy turns up late with his little son and he's got his invitation and Frank's like, what's your name and everything and the guy tells him and yeah, they find out that the guy was wanted for 2 counts of Grand Theft Auto, which obviously is like, okay, it's not murder or anything. And so yeah, he's like, oh, we're all booked up. And the guy's like, but I've brought my son. And he shows him his badge. He's like, no, we're all booked
Mhm.
up. And I love that as they're driving off, when he says, catch you later, because it's got that sort of dual meaning to it, which he uses again later on as well at a critical point. And I'm just like, oh man, that is really clever dialogue writing. I love it. But yeah, I mean, this script is so goddamn good. It shows you so much about his character, or tells you so much about his character in just like, minimal dialogue really. And that's, the fundamental rule of screenwriting is show, don't tell. And yeah, I just thought that the whole beginning bit just set things up perfectly. But I want to go back a little bit before that though, because like we were recently talking about The Exorcist and about how imperative it can be to establish the tone of your film, just from the very opening, through visuals. And I love the way that this film does that. You got that saxophone music, that sort of sleazy saxophone music playing while you got all these shots of, New York at night, with the sort of X-rated theaters and prostitutes soliciting people in the middle of the street and, all this sort of stuff. And it's just like, damn, I know exactly where I am right now,
Yeah,
it was
one of the
masterful.
commentary tracks I listened to had guys who were from New York and were
Yeah,
saying
right.
what a time capsule it was because
Mm,
on Times Square there used to be a whole heap of movie theaters all the time, and you can see one that's got Miracle Mile is showing now,
right,
and
right.
they're all gone now. And then it
Mm,
showed like the porn places and everything, and it's like
yeah, yeah. But
and
no, it
60
just
cents for something. So
oh wow. Yeah, no, it just established the tone brilliantly in that in the opening credit sequence. Yeah, I loved that. And it just, has such a contemporary sort of, noir thriller sort of a vibe. It's, you know, sort of dirty looking and yeah, just yeah, I just absolutely love that opening montage. I thought it was great. Mm.
hmm.
And you could say something.
I'm not, yeah, well, you just kind of went backwards, and then I'm like, I don't know where I'm at now. So, um,
Well, we talked about the opening scene, about the
yeah,
the the big sting
yeah.
operation. Yeah.
So, all right. So then, the other interesting thing is, yeah, so his wife left him and got married to one of his colleagues, and they have to go to the murder scene together because they're at the same precinct. So
Mm.
yeah, and it's just really interesting. Just it's just a sign of like good actors, like when they walk in and they're in the lift together, and just their like body language and everything
Oh man.
while
And
they're
yeah.
doing this crime. And also, they've been around for years, so that they're so matter of fact about going and checking the body and everything.
Mm. Yeah, having that whole conversation over a dead body and everything, I just thought was so fucking funny. And that's the thing, yeah, like you said before, there's so many moments of really good humor, like kind of dark
Mm.
humor in this movie. But yeah, I love
And
that
apparently they
dynamic.
had a lot of input from the cops too about like
Right, right.
from detectives of
Hmm.
what they would do in a scene like
Oh,
that.
okay,
So
that's
all
cool.
the actions they were doing and everything. So they
Hmm.
wanted it to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah, yeah, right. But I love that dynamic, putting these two, colleagues sort of, as adversaries, like that over, like having his wife leave him for, one of his people that he works with. It's just such a great thing. Like there's a lot of things like that in this movie that, it just kind of does things a little differently or whatever. Like, yeah. So yeah, no, that was brilliant. Again, just
Yeah. It
such great writing.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of moments that show the main, well, mainly Pacino, but also other main characters, but just
Mm,
all these things that aren't, yeah, they're not in your face, but you just can pick up little bits of his personality and everything just as all the scenes play out.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then we got John Goodman, who
Ah, so good
is
in
so
this.
fun. Apparently, he
Yeah.
found out he'd got Roseanne while filming this,
Ah, okay,
which
right.
I think is just an interesting time. I've recently begun rewatching Roseanne from the
Hmm.
beginning. I'm like halfway through season two. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's really interesting. And yeah, they had to write into like update his contract and be like, you need to be finished on this date because then he's going to go do Roseanne. So if you're not
Oh,
done,
right.
like, too bad, he's gone. So
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh, that's
it's like
interesting.
right at that time.
Hmm.
So
And
yeah,
actually,
he
just
was.
looking at some of the other things that Richard Price, the screenwriter, has done, but in my opinion, this is out of the ones I've seen, this is probably his best film. Like he's done The Color of Money, Ransom, Clockers, Shaft, the so the one starring the black guy. Uh, um, yeah, but I don't know. I don't think anything that he's done was
I
was.
well, I've only seen Kiss of Death, which I have no memory of.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he did
Don't
Michael
think I've
Jackson
seen it.
Bad. I would have seen that,
Yeah.
but I
Oh,
don't
Kiss of
remember
Death
it.
also has Black Guy in it as well. Um, yeah. So hang on. So what does it mean? Oh, the
Short film for.
right, right, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. I reckon he peaked with this film
Mm.
personally. But anyway. But yeah, no, John Goodman, yeah, holy shit, how incredible is the chemistry between Pacino and Goodman in this
Mm.
film? The way those
I
two,
know, just want like a whole movie of them,
oh,
just like a
don't
buddy
you?
buddy cop movie, because
Yes.
that's kind of what this is, like
Yeah, yeah.
inside a sort of thriller
I
type
love
movie.
that. So Sherman, John Goodman's character, like, he's just shown up from another precinct or whatever, and he doesn't know anybody, but like he's just such a happy-go-lucky, good-natured sort of person. He just, I
Mm.
mean, like pretty much when we first meet him, he like gets up from the table and is singing Sea of Love and doing a sort of
Mm.
impromptu strip tease and stuff. And it's like, man, and again, it tells you so much about the character straight away. And yeah, it just because Frank is just such a sort of I mean he's a alcoholic bum. He's so washed up. He just looks disheveled. He and
Mm.
everything, and then Sherman comes along and is sort of yeah, like a complete opposite sort of a thing. So, but not to the point where there's friction between them or anything like that, because of
Mm.
course, you've got Richard Jenkins' character Gruber for that. So yeah, but no, the two of them just like form this instant friendship, and yeah, I just love it every time the two of them interact. It's just so much fun.
And really early on, he's like, "Hey, you want to come to a wedding?"
Yeah.
Which is where and I thought we might see Pacino dance because
Right,
he
right.
dances in nearly every movie that I've
Yeah,
watched.
yeah.
And he's pretty good, except in Cruising, apparently, which I haven't seen yet, and everyone's surprised because apparently the dancing is so bad, but Pacino's a good dancer, so
Right,
I don't
right.
know what was going on there. But yeah, but
Mm.
no, that's where he has his plan of, hey,
Mm.
we need to put our own ad in the
Yeah.
classifieds because they work out that the guys who are dying have written sort of like poetry style
Hmm.
things. So they decide to come up with their own, go on dates with women, get their prints from the glasses, and figure out because they've got prints from one of the
Mm.
deaths. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and even and this is what I mean, even that, whole scene, where Pacino's sitting, and this is another thing that I love about this film is the even sort of background characters just you feel so much for them. So yeah, Frank is sitting, Sherman's posing as a waiter. Frank is, kind of yeah, sort of mock, speed dating like a whole,
mm,
string of women. And you get this one woman who, the very first one, who, thinks she's a bit old for him or whatever, but, and so they're talking and, he's like, oh, I'll call you, don't worry. And I love that moment where she just sort of looks at him. There's a few beats of silence, and she goes, no, you won't. Um, because yeah, after he said "we'll call you" by mistake, and sort of, he got his way out of that one, all right. But yeah, and then just the look of sadness on her face and everything, and it's sort of like, oh man, wow, I really feel for this person whose name I don't even know and who's going to be
well,
gone.
then she's in there later on too, when she's
Exactly, yeah,
seen
like
him go through a few more women, and then the look on his face when he realizes that she's been sitting there
yeah, yeah,
watching.
because he says to her that he's got to go pick up his son, and so he's got to go. And then, of course, yeah, he doesn't realize that she's been in there the whole time that he's been, you know, talking to woman after woman after woman, and that the way that she just sort of gets up with her dignity, and you can see she's got one tear streaming down her
Mm,
cheek and everything, and it's just like, my God, like, how have they put so much emotion into this one character who is just, in and out of the story. Like that
mm.
is so good. But yeah, that whole
Yeah.
scene was
And this is where Ellen Barkin
entertaining.
comes in, which is like
Yes.
40 minutes into the movie or something before she
Right,
turns
right.
up.
Yeah.
And she stands out. And something I didn't notice is that the movie is kind of just a bit drab along the way. And then she turns up with this bright red jacket on
Hmm.
and red lipstick. And she's all like, yeah, I don't feel it. I don't think this is going to work. So she doesn't touch the glass to have a
Hmm.
drink. So they don't get her prints. And then she just leaves.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
which is why, now there's the thing of she could be the killer because they don't have her prints to confirm that she's not.
Exactly. And I love the way that this movie takes you on Frank's journey, where it's like one minute she could be, one minute she might not be, then she might be again. And like, yeah, we'll talk more about that later on. But
Mm,
yeah, that was really cleverly done as well. But yeah, no, I really like that introduction to a character. She's yeah, just seems like a very strong personality and stuff. And yeah, like you said, she's got that look going, like that big 80s hair. Uh,
mm.
so yeah, no, that
Yeah,
was
that's
that was
like
cool.
80s into the 90s, that look of the big blonde hair and red lipstick
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
later
absolutely.
on she's doing the like blue jeans and white singlet and
Mm,
all of that. I'm just like, oh, I remember
yeah.
those days.
I gotta admit, I have not seen many of her films, which is weird. For some reason, it's one of those things where I actually, in my mind, I thought I've seen a lot of her films, but in all honesty,
I've
I've
seen seven.
seen one, two, three. I think I've seen only three of her films. How is that possible? 'Cause she's in so many. Although that being said, she's in a lot that, like, the names don't really jump out at me as being popular
Mm.
films or anything. So that's cool. Um, yeah, but yeah, no, yeah, I really dug the first meeting between those two. I thought, yeah, that was really good.
Mm.
Mm.
I also love that they just randomly had the thing of when John Goodman walks into the back with one of the glasses and almost drops it, and there's that really
Yes.
big,
Yeah.
it's like tumbling around and he's catching it in the apron.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you sort of think to yourself, hang on, was that scripted? But I'm sure it probably
Yeah.
was. But he did a really good job of making it look accidental. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that was cool. Yeah. And then what happened?
Well, the next important thing for me, because I don't remember the order of everything,
Yeah,
but
of course.
he ends up meeting her again,
Hmm.
um, at the end of a day when he's just at a fruit market looking for
Hmm.
some peaches.
Yeah.
And she wanders by because she lives in the same area. And then we have the fun 80s thing of they go to payphones to call people to
Yeah.
she's
I
letting
know.
her mum know because she's got a daughter, so she's letting her mum know that she'll be
Hmm.
out. And Frank calls Sherman, and then Sherman's just really funny with the jokes about him hooking up with her and stuff.
Yeah, and like
With Ben
getting
and
his
then it's
dick
morning.
dusted for prints and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Oh man, that was actually I kind of relate to Sherman. I think like if I was a big fat cop, I'd probably be like him. Yeah, so I think that's probably why I like him so much. Yeah, is this around the time that we're first introduced to Michael Rooker's character,
Oh,
Terry?
that happened earlier.
Oh, right, right,
I
yeah.
think that happened because he works at the place that was at the building for the first murder that he went
Hmm.
to investigate.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was
Um,
pretty early on that they go chat.
and I mean, this is a guy who just every single movie he's ever been in, he just commands the screen. Like he's actually one person who it's sort of like, wow, Al Pacino is such a dominant force of acting. Whoa, Jesus Christ, we got Michael Rooker. Like, I don't know, there's just something about that guy that I just find so intense. Yeah. And didn't you tell me that it was
Apparently,
this? Mm,
apparently there was some complaints that his name comes up in the opening credits. So he seems to just be this tiny character at the beginning
mm.
that he's in the opening credits. So it's a
Oh,
bit of
okay.
a thing of like, you know, there's going to be more to him than
See,
that.
I didn't think about that. I didn't bat an eyelid now because, of course, he's such an established actor. I mean, this guy's been
Yeah,
in
well, at the
so
time,
many things.
he had just done Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Mm.
So he was not known
Yeah, yeah,
really
right,
at
right.
all, apart from to horror people.
So did you tell me that he got this role based on
Yeah,
Henry, was it?
the director apparently liked him in that movie.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, but yeah, no, yeah, I didn't even think of it that way. Like, yeah, at the time.
I didn't.
So
It was
yeah,
one of
that's
the
interesting.
commentary tracks, but I kind
Right.
of generally thought of it because, yeah, he's not really a noticeable character in the beginning because you're just like,
True.
oh, he's just one of these guys that worked at the thing. And
Mm,
he does come back later to the red herring of making up some guy that was
mm.
delivering groceries or whatever.
Yeah, we're wow wow or wee wee or woo woo
Mm.
or I don't know what the guy's name was, but anyway, that's irrelevant. But yeah, no, I just oh, man, I love Michael Rooker. He is just yeah, I just love the guy. And so yeah, I was happy when he showed up and at the start I was like, ah, he seems nice. But we'll talk more about his character a little bit later on. Yeah, so where are we at?
Um, yeah, so Frank and Helen
Mm,
go chat at a bar and then go back to his place and we get this
here we go.
steamy sex scene.
Yes, yes, we do. It's
Which is
yeah.
also funny because um they're like all over each other when they get in his apartment and then
Mm,
she's like, "Where's your bathroom?" And he points and then notices a bit of a gun sticking out of her bag as she picks up
mm.
her handbag and goes into the bathroom. And so then while she's in there, he's like pulling out his gun and freaking out and like
Yeah.
circling around the bed and like, what do I do? What do I do?
Mm.
And which is hilarious. And then what does he do? She comes out of the bathroom and he grabs her and shoves her in the closet.
Yeah.
And
I
apparently they did a lot of like improv stuff and everything to work out how to do that scene because they had to work out how she was going to not just leave
Mm.
because he just shoved her in a closet. Like,
Oh, okay,
how do you
right.
come back from that to
Yeah.
keep the night going?
Yeah. And I'm still very curious as to why she was carrying around a starter pistol in her bag. I mean, is was it just like, do you think a self-defense thing? Like it's
Well,
all
I
she
guess it
had?
was like a, show it and hope that people would think it was a real gun and
Yeah.
run off.
Yeah. I guess that's plausible. But yeah, no, I love that scene, and I'll let you describe what happens next because you just you loved
Well,
it so much.
yeah, I mean, it depends what you're into, I guess. But then they get over the misunderstanding, and he's just like, "Sorry, I was scared," and
Mm,
she's a woman, so she gets that
mm,
and says, "I'll tell you some stories about being scared." But anyway, they get back on track, and then yeah, the fun thing is she is after him. She's like
mm,
the dominant one, and so then she turns around and shoves him up against the wall
mm,
um, and just starts groping him and while
mm.
she's like completely naked under her robe, which
Yeah,
slowly
and then
comes off. But
grinding on him and stuff.
yeah.
Like, yeah. I do love in this film how every time Pacino comes up with some kind of excuse for something that he's done, it always seems quite plausible. Even later on, like when she finds out that he's a cop, and like, his reason for that, where he explains to her, well, I didn't want to tell you straight away because, as soon as you mention you're a cop, people walk, whatever. It's like, that actually makes sense. Like, so he's got all these sort of bullshit excuses, but yeah, they work. Like, so you kind of understand why she, believes him every time he comes up with something. Yeah, so no, that's, yeah, again, just it comes down to great writing.
Hmm.
Hmm. All right, so she's grinding against his butt.
Well, I mean, that's it. It kind of it doesn't go too much further before it kind of just fades out and goes to the next morning. But you
Yeah.
know, that's pretty good. You don't need everything. Like there's a
Mm,
lot. They gave us a lot with that, and
yeah.
so I was very happy.
I know you went on about that scene like, in
Yeah, I
quite a
really
lot of
like that
detail, and I was
scene.
like,
It's
oh,
something about Al Pacino shoved up against the wall just does it for me.
there you go. You heard it here
Yeah.
first. And believe me, we heard about it for a very long time. No, that's totally fine. Yeah, no, but
And then the next morning after she leaves,
mm,
there's a great scene of him like she drinks from a glass, so then
mm,
he can get her prints and he like picks it up and has it in the evidence bag and everything ready to go,
yeah.
and then he just stops and takes it out and rubs his hands all over it and
I
is like,
know. And
no,
again,
not gonna do
show
it.
don't tell. Like, that,
Mm.
yeah. Actually, you know what? The more we talk about this, because I've got it on 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, I'm bumping it up to 5. I don't care. Like, I think the only reason why I settled on 4.5 was because there was kind of a element of familiarity overall with the film, but who cares? Like, it does things quite differently here and
See,
there and
now
stuff.
you
So, nah,
understand
five
why
stars. Fuck it.
sometimes I do 4.5 on a first watch, and then I
Yeah,
wait
yeah, yeah.
until I watch again to
Yeah.
then decide does it get the full thing.
Yeah, no, to me, yeah, because even like, we're talking about, I could watch this movie again tonight, honestly. Yeah, it is just such a goddamn great film.
Yeah, I
Um,
think too the one of the things about it being more about the characters than the thriller aspect is you can watch it again and again because who the killer is doesn't really
Michael
matter
Rooker.
for the main story. So it is rewatchable because you're following the characters more than
Totally.
just it being a straight murder mystery plot.
Absolutely. I love going on this journey with Frank. I love, watching his transformation. I mean, that's another and see, this is the thing. Like the first time I watched it just for, the enjoyment of watching a film. Last night I really kind of analyzed it more, and that's another thing that one of the so-called rules of screenwriting is that your characters can't be the same person at the end as they were at the beginning. And holy shit, Leo Frank has such a cool character arc, I mean, yeah, which, again, we'll talk about later, but yeah, no, that's it's
Also,
really great writing.
because I I watched this film and then I watched it again and then I
Mm.
picked up the 4K, so I watched it again on the
And the
4K,
Laserdisc and the
and then
VHS and
then I watched it.
35 mil film reel.
I would love to have that.
Oh my God. Okay.
No, I mean,
Send merch
like if I
to
had like a way to screen them, if I was like,
yeah,
rich
yeah.
person with a mansion with a movie room that had a projector and everything,
Yeah.
to like have a 35 print
Oh
would
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh,
um
you crazy kid.
um yeah, I watched it a third time because the 4K has commentary with Harold Becker, the director.
Hmm.
And then I watched it again because there's another commentary with some like film historian people.
Right,
But
right.
the Harold Becker one was really interesting because he had a lot of good things to say. But the one with the historians, there was like three guys, so it
Mm.
was a lot of talking over the film. And so the interesting thing about watching commentary like that is you are really looking at the expressions on the actors' faces because you can't hear what they're saying because it's being talked over.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, just watching like Pacino's expressions and things. It's pretty fun to watch actors. I had the same thing with Assassination of Jesse James.
Hmm.
Sometimes when you've got the commentary tracks on, you really notice the actors' expressions while they're speaking, and
Right,
also like
right.
lighting and stuff is
Hmm.
more can be more noticeable because you're not distracted by the words, and especially on the
Yeah, of
first
course.
watch when you don't know what's happening, so you're
Yeah,
paying
yeah.
extra attention. So
Just out of
pretty
interest,
fun.
I was just looking up Harold Becker because I was like, oh, I wonder what else he's done. But it wasn't so much what he's done because I noticed he was born in 1928, and I was like, holy shit! So he was like about 60 when he made this film, which is interesting. But then, even more interesting, the motherfucker's still alive. He's 96 years old. Wow, that's absolutely crazy. You don't live to 96 these days, but this guy is just, he's doing it because he was like, I don't care. I made Sea of Love. I want to hear more about what people think of this movie. He might even listen to this podcast. And if,
Yeah.
Harold, if you're listening to this podcast, we love you. We hope you live another 96 years and make a sequel. I want to see more about. I want to see that. Well, look, honestly, Frank Keller and Helen. Like, I want to see these two get married so she can become Helen Keller. Um,
Yeah, no, I want the buddy cop.
oh yeah, well we can
Yeah.
we can do both, like a buddy cop thing, and him and his wife. Like, oh my God! But listen, I do want to just backtrack a little bit. So the scene where they're coming up, the bunch of cops are sitting around at Frank's place, and they're trying to come up with a love poem,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, Frank Keller Senior, who's off sitting on a chair, suddenly he sits there and suddenly comes up with this poem with his gruff voice and everything, and I'm sitting there, I'm like. I've seen this bastard somewhere before. Where have I seen him before? And then I had a suspicion of what it was, and I was correct. He was in the Jerky Boys movie in 1995 as this bizarre character. So in the Jerky Boys movie, Alan Arkin, who is just such a great actor, he kind of played the main villain, and it was like this mafia guy. Are you familiar with Alan Arkin? Because
Mm.
he's just such a nice guy, and like even in this film, it was just I don't know if it was miscasting or if it was meant to intentionally just be silly, but so Alan Arkin was this kind of like nice guy villain, but they kept talking about this character, this Don Uncle Freddy Frederico, who was kind of like, this savage beast mafia guy or whatever. And I remember there's these flashbacks to Frederico just sitting on a porch and kind of like a hazy sort of a shot, like there's Vaseline on the lens or whatever, of him just sort of sitting there with this weird smile rocking back and forth. I just remembered that. that image of this guy because he looks so weird, and then all of a sudden he turns up in Sea of Love, and I'm like, that's him. That's Uncle Don Freddy from Jerky Boys. So yeah.
You said the
Um,
Leo pose as well.
what's that? Sorry.
The Leo pose.
Right,
And
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, exactly. That was me. I'm sitting there like, that's him. So yeah, that was kind of cool. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in because that's why we're here. Talk about stuff
Hmm.
like that. So yeah. Where the hell are we up to in the film? He's wiped the prints off the glass. Is that the last thing that we
Yeah.
see, I am paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah, so then we just have the fun, like, sort of courtship thing
Hmm.
and the issues that come up with that.
hmm And you're
And
still guessing, as the audience, you're still like, is she or isn't she?
yeah, I didn't even think about that. I knew
Hmm.
that it wouldn't be her.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just figured.
I had no idea which way it was going to go. I was like, yeah, it could very well be her, but as we have with movies, we don't tend to sort of think too
Yeah.
deeply about those things. We just, enjoy it
I
in the
mean,
moment.
especially when you get to that scene in her house where she's got the ad circled on the fridge.
Yeah. But even, well, yeah, because at that point, the first time I'd watched it, I was kind of like, okay, I don't think it's her. I believe in, Frank's judgment. But then, in that moment, I was kind of like, ooh, but then I thought, is that too obvious? Like,
Yeah.
and if she is the killer, like actually, that would have really diminished my star rating for this film if she had been the killer and they just made it that obvious. That would have been,
I
did,
would have just been devastated if she was the killer
yeah,
because
yeah.
then we
Do you
just don't get
know?
our love story.
Yeah, exactly. Are you familiar with the term Deus Ex Machina in film, like screenwriting and stuff? It's basically where the screenwriter is so lazy, they just throw something in there that is completely implausible to, you know, give our hero whatever they need to progress. You know what I mean? And yeah, that would have been such a case of it. It's just like, yeah, it's like, oh, Frank doesn't really need to do any detective work. There it is. Just fuck it. So yeah, I'm glad that she wasn't the killer because yeah, that would have been terrible.
Mm.
Mm. On every level.
Mm.
And then what
Yeah, and
happened?
so, well, I don't remember the order of everything, so I
That's all
don't know
right.
why you keep saying that, but we we do get a
Well, it's more
fun,
because there's dead silence, and I'm like, come on, we gotta keep going. Because
well, it, it's not like there was a long pause. We just finished
there
a
was.
sentence and then you say that. And I was about to start
Okay.
speaking and you cut me off and now it's taken longer. So
Man.
we also get another dating scene in the restaurant where John Goodman gets to have his turn
Yeah.
with all the ladies.
hmm
And we get to see, oh, we missed this scene. There's the fun scene in the first murder where, for some reason, Frank
Mm.
goes back to the apartment. I think that's after the cop party
Yeah.
and just decides to lay on the bed where the body was.
Mm.
And
Bit
then
creepy, but anyway.
suddenly there's the buzzer at the door, and it's a woman who's come to meet the dead man.
Mm.
And she turns up later to have this date with John Goodman, which is pretty fun because then she's like, "You're a cop and a waiter."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's like,
Pacino's
did you get
turn to be the
fired?
waiter.
But yeah, I like it. Yeah, that was one instance where he didn't try and, come up with any sort of excuse or whatever. It was just like, okay, yep, this is what's happening. We're detectives and stuff. So yeah, that was cool. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
And then, oh, and I think this is where he goes and calls Helen to come to the supermarket
hmm
with
Yeah.
nothing under her coat, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you thought the previous scene was steamy, whoa.
Yeah, no, the other one's steamier
Well, yeah, I know. But
because,
yeah,
this one's just hinting.
but this one had fruit and vegetables, and you can steam vegetables. So yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, but no, there's this scene. Yeah, I did think was yeah, it was rather spicy.
Mm.
Because yeah, look, look, I'm gonna come out and admit. So you know how I have this very sort of superficial thing of like some actors and actresses I just find extremely unattractive and stuff. I'm like that
Mm.
with Ellen Barkin. I don't know, like great actress, wonderful person. Ellen, if you're listening, love your work. Um, but my God, I just so it's kind of difficult for me in this film to like, really kind of think like, whoa, hey, look what's going on here, because I'm just like, ew, he's touching her. Yeah, but anyway, I don't want to go on too much about that because
Yeah,
that's
you have that's a weird issues
it
you
is.
have
It is a
with
very weird
people's
issue,
faces.
but
Yes.
yeah, she has these beady little eyes that are too far apart.
Yeah,
Her
okay,
face is
don't
very
don't
square.
don't
Okay.
don't
Anyway, so the fruit and vegetables. Yeah. I'm just saying that's the
um
power of this film is that, I can get past that, and still appreciate it. So yeah, there you go. Don't look at me like that.
well, anyway, now that that brought everything to a complete halt,
No, it
you
didn't.
can
Here
bring
we
it
go.
back.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I can't remember what happens next after that scene. I only watched it last night, but yeah. I don't know. So this is why I say what happens then, because you've got things
Well,
written down. I don't.
yeah, but I haven't been like I watched it before writing things down, so I don't have it
Yeah.
memorized the order of things to write it down.
Yeah, neither do
So,
I.
I know that there's a disagreement where she finds out he's a cop that happens at some point.
Well, yeah. Well, the shoe
And
store.
then there is,
That's a
yeah.
scene worth talking about. Because
Yeah,
that
which
that
is also the continue like has an error in it because
oh,
there's like the sexy he's like, "Hey, I want some shoes," and because
hey, hey.
they gotta act like she's selling him some shoes to have a chat. And
Mm,
then there's just they make it sexy like her taking his shoe off and like caressing his foot on her leg and stuff.
mm.
But then the two punks come in and be like, "Hey,
Well, when you say punks, I mean
well,
they're
not
very
punks.
Wall
Yeah,
Street,
like I think
well-dressed
they're meant to be like, you know,
a-holes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they have that thing, but then that's where she finds out he's a cop, and he is that's where he has the line about being everyone's daddy and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I love, I
but
mean,
then he stalks out of the store and it's like you didn't put your shoe back on. Unless he did it out of shot while the
yeah,
guys
of
were
course he
saying
did it out of
stuff.
shot. This movie doesn't have mistakes. Shut up. But no, that scene, because I mean, previously in another episode where we've talked about Al Pacino, I mentioned how that dude just has so much intensity just in
Oh
those
yeah, he's
eyes.
just like
Like,
staring at the guy for ages while
exactly,
he's
and
saying
I
stuff.
love it. I want to be like that. I wish I could do that to people. I wish I could look so intensely intimidating just by staring at someone. And yeah, I love that scene just because of that. He doesn't even have to say a word. He's just letting them do the talking and he's just staring at them. But yeah, that's of course when one of them's like, this guy's a cop, and stuff. And it's like, oopsies. But yeah, so outside, like
Yeah, and then he
that's
gets annoyed at Helen being annoyed and but he doesn't realize that she's not annoyed he's a cop. She's
mm.
annoyed that he lied to her and said he worked in printing or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, but
But
I
the
how
good
good is that
thing,
line though? Like when she says, like oh, you're a cut, you said you were a printer, and he's like, well, what did he say? Like, yeah, but I've always wanted to be a printer or something like that. Just the way he delivers that line is so funny. Like I watched this movie last night with my wife Kylie because she hadn't seen it before, and like, yeah, there were so many moments like that where we were just laughing our asses off. Actually, I enjoyed the film more watching it with someone, which is always a better way to watch films. But yeah, no,
but
there's some
I
great
do
humor in it.
love that he stalks off. She goes out after him to be like, "Hey, we're not done,"
Mm,
whatever. And they like work it out. And so I kind of love that, you have a misunderstanding
mm,
that's not going to go on for half the movie. They like talk
yeah.
about it and work it out.
Exactly. And that comes back to what I was saying before about how plausible all of his bullshit excuses are. Because yeah, like that's the moment where he says to her, well, I didn't want to mention that I was a cop, and as I said before. And yeah, but it sounds, legit. Like, yeah, I dug that. And yeah, so no, I was very happy that there wasn't the end of their relationship there and then.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh, and I think I remembered now what happened while John Goodman was doing this dating thing is
Hmm.
he wanted to take Helen out to a nice hotel.
That's
And
right. Yeah, yeah.
he's very nervous because he wants to ask her to move in with him.
Hmm.
And he basically goes insane.
Yeah.
And they're at the hotel restaurant, and there's a guy playing violin, and he's trying to talk to her, but he's very distracted by all the sounds around and the music
Hmm.
playing and everything.
And
And
he's
then
got
it
the
just,
London Philharmonic up his ass, as he says.
yeah. And basically he's just like, we gotta leave. We've
Hmm.
got to go. And they end up having this huge fight. So he ends up going back to his apartment, forgetting that he said Sherman could stay there. And then, oh, what do we know? He's there cheating on his wife with the
Hmm.
girl from the dating thing that
Oh
had the
shit.
balloons on her wrists and stuff for the first murdered guy.
I You know what? I mean, okay, I've watched this movie twice. I didn't catch um that Goodman's character was cheating on his wife. I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
You
I
thought
don't
she was
know.
just hanging out there.
Well, because you never
And
see
then
his
he's all like
wife
upset
and
and
stuff.
he's like,
I
you
know, but
see, yeah, you see his wife. She's in bed next to him when he's on the phone. And then the
oh
other
my
scene
God.
where he's on the
Yeah,
phone in the kitchen,
wow.
she's behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Wow. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna put that back to 4.5 stars now. I do not condone cheating. No, just kidding. Yeah. Oh man, I wish you
It
hadn't
just
told me
shows
that. I never thought about it that
every
way, but
character has, you know, has
yeah.
their flaws,
Well,
and it's just
maybe,
very sad
look,
that he turns out to be.
maybe, I mean, you never saw what they were doing in the room. Maybe they were
No,
blowing
but
up
you
more
can
helium
tell by
balloons
what he says, like he's very upset about it.
because they didn't get to blow up all the helium balloons. That's why, like, because shut up. Anyway, wow, way to ruin the movie for me. Anyway,
Hmm.
but no,
And I
that's
think
on me because I didn't pick that up.
is this the end of the movie? Is it after Sherman leaves that the killer comes? Or is that
Yeah.
I think it's right then, isn't it?
Yeah. It's yeah, pretty much not long after that. So yeah, so Frank goes to.
Oh no, it's not. It's not.
It's not.
Because then there's the scene where he is at her place, at Helen's place,
Mm,
and notices she has Sea of Love in her record collection.
mm.
That she's like, oh, I don't even remember what's in those boxes.
Yeah, which is
And
really well
then,
played because it's like,
mm,
hang on, is she bullshitting or not? Like, yeah, the
yeah,
way that
and
that
then,
she played that part, I think, yeah, worked really well.
and he'd gone to her place to apologize for everything that happened with the fancy restaurant and said about whatever. And he's like, come home with me. And then she's going to, but then changes her mind. So he
Mm.
goes home. I don't know if that's the same night as when
No, I think that was
Goodman's there.
before then, but anyway,
But
doesn't
then
matter.
she comes over, and this is when he's like full on psycho level paranoid,
Mm.
worried about everything, decided she must be the killer.
Because
Oh,
he's seen
right when he's
the
seen the things on the fridge.
Yeah, because he goes around
Yeah,
to
and
her
so
place
yeah,
to talk to her because
yeah,
he wants them to move in with each other, like her and her
yeah.
daughter. And she goes to talk to her mum, and that's when he sees the things on the fridge, like the one ads with the circles around them and all the victims' names, and so and yeah, that's what I mean. If she was the killer, that would just be
Mm.
terrible, and that would have brought it
So,
down to
but
like
then
3 stars.
she turns up at his place anyway because he just leaves quite suddenly. She comes
Mm,
back and says, "Oh, I don't think so." So he's just like, "Okay, bye." And,
mm,
and so she's like, "What the hell is going on?"
yeah.
So she goes to see him, and then thinks she's the killer. She pulls out the Sea of Love record and starts
Yeah,
playing it,
I
and she's like,
know.
"I've got something special
See, at
for
that
you
point,
or
like the
whatever."
first time I'm watching, I'm like, holy shit, is it her? Like,
Mm,
I'm like, wow, maybe it is. I don't know, because
mm.
yeah. Um, and
Yeah, and
then
so
yeah.
then he fully is, and it's really funny because he starts yelling at her about just tell me, like, as in just confess that you killed these guys.
Mm,
And she doesn't know what he's talking about. So
mm,
it's just, and I can't remember, they set up something that she would be thinking it was. But anyway, she thinks it's one thing, he thinks it's something else. She's too
mm.
freaked out, and eventually he just tells her to leave.
Yeah, but after he's
And
been giving her his gun as well, I love that. He's just like, boom, take it, like,
yeah.
and everything. That's yeah, pretty full on.
Mm.
And of course she's refusing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So she just, yeah, grabs all her stuff, takes off, be like, I gotta get away from this crazy guy. And then the killer turns up.
The killer turns out there's a buzz at the door, and Frank's like, "Oh, it must be she's come back and everything." And yeah, he steps outside into that really scary looking corridor. Like that is a
Yeah.
fucking menacing looking corridor outside his place. Where yes, Yondu, Henry, whichever character, like Michael Rooker, yeah, just lunges at him in an absolute blind rage and proceeds to beat the shit out of him. Because, yeah, previously when we've seen the murders, it's a naked dude lying on his stomach, having sex with his bed, going, "Oh, you like that? You like that? Huh? Huh?" And then getting shot in the head, and it's like, the hell? Like, what
Mm.
is going? Why are they fucking their beds? And now we find out because, yeah, so it turns out that Terry is actually Helen's ex-husband. And I love so goddamn much that every time we've met Terry throughout this film, we don't know that.
Mm.
I and again, it's plausible, it's not sort of like, oh, really, they've made that character. It's like, no, he could have very well been. So good, 5 stars. And yeah, so it turns out that he's been stalking Helen and killing all of these dudes. So yeah, he gets them to go on the bed and like, show me what you did to my wife and stuff. And I was like, that explains a lot of things.
Mm. And
I
this is a interesting fight scene, partially because of how big Michael Rooker is.
mm,
Um, so it's very overpowering for Pacino, but also
mm,
the way he just gets him on the bed and sits on top of him and then is
yeah,
like, show me how you did it.
I
I'm just
know, I
like,
know.
that's rather interesting to
Mm,
for him to be on top of him,
yeah.
wanting him to hump the bed.
But it is also cool the way that Frank had hidden that statue earlier in the
Mm,
film, something like a New York cop marksman trophy or something that he thought, oh, got to hide that. So he hides it under the bed. And yeah, so then of course it's conveniently there for him to use as a weapon. And I'm just
mm.
like, again, that feels natural. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like they've just forced things into the script
And
for them to
also, it's
happen.
not the end of the fight. Like the fight goes on
No.
for quite a while, and then Pacino thinks he's got him because he's got the gun pointing at
Mm.
him. But then, of course, he just jumps across the
Terry's a
bed and
fucking
just,
maniac.
yeah, just
Yeah.
grabs him again. And it's like, yeah, gun's not enough for this guy. So there's lots of,
No, he's gotta
yeah,
he's gotta
fighting and
become
being
a victim
thrown
to gravity.
around. Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually funny because when that fight was actually kind of when they first went into that room, like Kylie was even said something like, oh, he's gonna go out the window. And I'm sitting there like, man, how did you know? So yeah, I guess that was inevitable.
That was a
Uh,
bit convenient that Pacino managed to get him out a window? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that would have been that easy, but
mm,
you know, whatever. It was in the script, so there you go.
yeah.
And then of course, yeah, this is where the character arc comes to its end, where Frank is now on the wagon. He's been sober for 7 weeks. I love
And
that
you can
scene.
tell, like, he looks
He does when he walks into that
looks
bar and
good.
he's like invigorated and everything, and it's
Mm.
sort of like, yeah,
And I
it's
love
so good.
John Goodman's just like giving him crap about what he's
Exactly.
drinking.
Yeah. Because he's got a shot of something and a beer chaser, and then Frank orders a club soda and lime, and yeah, Sherman's just sitting there
Yeah,
like,
cheap date.
oh, so good. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck you. Yeah, so that's cool. And then yeah, of course, like Frank goes to meet Helen, and there is the moment where you told me before the first time I'd seen this film that there is a moment where an
Yeah.
extra bumps into Pacino. Now, did
I
you say it
found
was
that out.
intentional or?
No, it was the director said it in the commentary. They were filming on the street in New York and they had extras around, but you can't shut down the busiest street
Right,
in
that's
New
right, that's
York.
right.
So there was also normal people there and you can see people turning around to look in the background
Mm,
of the scene. But there was a real guy, like not an extra, who just was
right.
obviously in a hurry and he just barges into Pacino and nearly knocks him over and
Mm,
pushes him like way back. And Pacino just like
the
went
consummate
with it
professional.
and just kept going with the scene
Yeah,
and they ended up keeping it in the movie. But I
yeah,
just
yeah.
love it. When I watched it the second time and I looked for that,
Mm,
I love it because Pacino just kind of laughs and then Alan Barkin cracks up and then they just keep going and it's kind of like it became a turning point. Like he
mm,
got her to laugh and
mm.
that kind of broke the ice for the
Yeah,
rest of
yeah.
the conversation. But yeah, it was just a real guy that just was in a
Mm.
hurry
But
and
the
just
funny thing is,
didn't
before the
care.
first time I'd seen the film, you told me that there was this moment where, you know, someone barges into him and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see that. And so, you know, I'm sitting there watching this movie, and every time there's a moment where Pacino's outside, I'm like, oh, here it
Yeah, it's
comes, here
quite
it
a
comes.
long
Ah.
walk. I told
And
you it
it
was at the
doesn't
end.
happen till the very, very end of the film. And I'm like, oh my
I told
God.
you it was at the end.
Well, you should have told me twice because clearly I didn't pay enough attention. Yeah, so I didn't tell Kylie about that last night until it happened, and I was like, "Hey, that wasn't meant to happen."
No, you should have
Yeah,
told her just before.
yeah. Well,
Because
anyway,
it's
whatever.
fun to see the expressions and know that
Yeah. Oh, look,
that
I'm sure we'll
that
watch this
wasn't
movie
meant to
again.
be.
Like, there's no doubt
Yeah.
we'll be watching it again. Yeah, and then yeah, and they walk off as the
Hmm.
a different
I
version of the song
do
plays.
think that like it's a little like I know it's been mentioned too about how difficult it would be to get her back after what he did. Like he was pretty
Mm,
crazy in that final scene in the apartment,
mm.
like to be able to win her over after
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah, but it's Pacino, you know, like as if you're
mm,
not gonna
yeah.
forgive and forget. Like, yeah,
And he stopped drinking, so you'll
exactly.
hope that
Yeah.
that
So
sticks and
give the man a
that makes a
break.
difference.
Yeah, and then of course, yes, the Tom Waits version of the song
So good.
comes
It's
over the
also on
end
the menu
credits.
screen on my 4K,
Ah,
so
right.
yeah, it's pretty nice.
Hmm. Yeah, so look, yeah, I mean, the first time I watched it, yeah, I was just like after watching it, I'm just like, okay, mind blown. Yeah, that film is absolutely superb. Um, I was hovering around 5 stars, but I was like, at the end of the day, like, you know, it kind of yeah, but no, I don't have any criticisms anymore. Like, yeah, there's just it's one of those things where any little minor nitpicks are just far outweighed by how absolutely brilliant the film is, the performances, the writing, the production design, like just everything about
Yeah,
this
and because
film.
all the exteriors were obviously filmed in New York,
Mm,
and anytime you're in a hotel thing like a lobby where you can look outside, that's New York, but all
mm.
the interiors were filmed in Toronto,
Wow, wow.
just made to look
Huh.
like, and the one of the commentary things I was listening to, like, had New Yorkers said
Yeah.
it looks exactly like New York apartments would
Right,
look.
yeah.
And the police station was also in Toronto, but actually was a police station that wasn't being used
Ah,
anymore. So
okay,
they
that's
like an
interesting.
abandoned one. So
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so look, yeah, absolutely. If you guys have not seen Sea of Love, you need to see Sea of Love. Actually, if you haven't seen Sea of Love, you've just had it spoiled so much for you because holy shit.
But
Yeah,
it's
sucks to be you.
still if you're the kind of person that doesn't care about spoilers and everything,
Yeah.
it's still worth watching because like we said, it doesn't matter if you know who the killer is, you can still
Mm.
enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you kind of assume that they're going to end up together at the end anyway as well.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So, yep. Nope. Sea of Love. Check it out. Absolutely. Right now. Just go actually listen to the rest of this podcast and then go and, well, yeah, there's probably not really much left to say, but
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
it'll
You
just
might
be
as
us
well
waffling
listen
on
to
for a
this
couple of
last
minutes, but
minute.
yes, yes, listen to this last minute and catch our really funky end music, which I made. And yeah, anyway. Yes, so there you go. Thank you, everyone who has been listening to this. If you would like to discuss Sea of Love, if you're watching this on YouTube, fire away in the comments. We will respond to you because we sit there like looking at our own channel, clicking refresh multiple times a day, hoping that someone will talk to us. Okay, that's not true. I don't. Frankie does.
I
But if
don't
you
even
Oh,
do
whoops, I
this.
forgot you're listening.
Yeah.
But yes, if you want to catch us on social media, just Google Dan and Frankie Go to Hollywood. You'll find us on Facebook. You'll find us on Twitter. Bleh. And you'll find us on Blue Sky, where the skies are bluer. And yes, come and talk to us. Let us know what you think of Sea of Love. And yeah, we will rock you. Boom, boom, pff, boom, boom, pff, boom, boom, pff, boom, boom.